Welcome back to World Affairs in Context. Thank you so much for joining me today. An important diplomatic event just took place in Beijing. China hosted a trilateral meeting with Russia and Iran to discuss Iran's nuclear program and the lifting of U.S. economic and financial sanctions. This meeting actually comes amid escalating tensions, as you may know, with U.S. President Trump having sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader threatening military action against Iran unless Iran halts its nuclear program. Again, Iran is a sovereign nation, and it is quite odd to think that a letter of that nature and written in that tone would yield any positive or meaningful results in terms of bilateral relations and in terms of restoring relations between the two countries. Whether or not it's possible is another question, of course, but still, threatening military action is very much a taboo. One would only do that, of course, to escalate tensions. In response, China, Russia, and Iran have called for the resumption of multilateral nuclear talks and the lifting of U.S. sanctions. Additionally, the meeting in Beijing took place in the context of the International Atomic Energy Agency expressing concerns earlier this month about Iran's uranium enrichment activities. The agency effectively voiced concerns because it believes Iran's enriched uranium might be approaching weapons-grade levels. They don't have any confirmation of that, but this is what the agency claimed. Whether or not this concern, quote-unquote, was politically motivated or encouraged in other ways remains unclear. Now, before we move any further, it is very important to point out that the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or the NPT in short, is an international treaty that is aimed at preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and promoting peaceful uses of nuclear energy. The NPT has three main objectives: non-proliferation, disarmament, and the peaceful use of nuclear energy. As of today, 191 countries are parties to this agreement, making it one of the most widely adhered to arms control treaties in the entire world in history. There are 5 countries recognized under the NPT as nuclear powers. They are Russia, the United States, China, the UK, and France. Now, here's the main point. There are countries that possess, or let's put it diplomatically, are thought to possess nuclear weapons that are not part of the NPT treaty. These countries are Pakistan, Israel, India, North Korea, and likely South Sudan, although this last one is questionable, I believe. So with regards to Iran, during the first presidency, President Trump made a decision to withdraw the United States from the agreement under which Iran, under President Raisi at that time, agreed to self-impose limitations on its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of Western sanctions, which would allow it to develop its economy and to grow. Trump withdrew despite the fact that the international agency issued a report. It was an independent report indicating that Iran fully complied with all requirements of that agreement at that time. So it was the U.S. decision not to move forward with the agreement. In recent weeks, the Trump administration made a rather questionable, one might argue, attempt to restart negotiations with Iran. And here's why it was questionable. President Trump said in an interview that if Tehran did not want to negotiate with the United States would have to, quote, intervene militarily. So could that statement be regarded as a form of coercion? It is quite possible, and I'm sure that's exactly how it would be perceived by any foreign state. So in response, Iranian President Pezeshkian said that they would not be able to negotiate if Iran is coerced by the other party, effectively declining the proposal in its current form. Nobody wants to be forced to do anything. The meeting held in Beijing signaled that the global majority supports Iran's right to use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, and I want to underscore that, for peaceful purposes, and its compliance with the United Nations Security Council resolutions. Following the meeting, a joint statement was issued in which Russia, China, and Iran called for an end to, quote, illegal and unilateral sanctions against Iran, as well as threats of force. They emphasized that mutual respect ought to be the basis for diplomatic solutions moving forward. China and Russia advocating for economic sanctions on Iran to be lifted is a very important step. This is something that would have been shocking 5 or 10 years ago. Now we see that global powers become more assertive and multipolarity has already arrived. It is here, and they're becoming more assertive, and they're actually standing up to attempts to bully them. China also separately rejected suggestions made by Britain and France that they might join forces to reimpose the United Nations sanctions originally lifted under the 2015 deal. So, in my opinion, the meeting was a very important step towards showing the world that multipolarity enables countries to align and to find common causes and to align on common priorities and to promote peaceful ways to resolve conflicts. Here's Foreign Ministry spokesperson on China, Russia, Iran, Beijing meeting on the Iranian nuclear issue. Take a look.
伊朗核问题深入交换意见，并发表联合声明，重申政治外交接触和对话是唯一有效可行的选项，呼吁有关方摒弃制裁施压、武力威胁，避免采取升级局势的行动。三方还重申不扩散核武器条约的重要性。中俄欢迎伊朗重申其核计划的和平性质，不寻求发展核武器，支持伊朗与国际原子能机构继续合作，强调要尊重伊朗和平利用核能的权利等。
This trilateral event was also important from the standpoint of understanding that neither Russia nor China nor Iran view military activities as a feasible solution to the current challenges. Despite what we are told here in the mainstream media in the West, the three countries once again emphasize that diplomacy and peace matter. Tehran's securing support of Russia and China indicates that global centers of power are indeed shifting, and this goes beyond purely economic realities and purely economic interests and financial challenges that the BRICS Plus bloc is focusing on. This is indeed a structural shift towards a multipolar world and hopefully a more peaceful world. China, Russia, and Iran are full members of the BRICS Plus bloc, as you know. Last week, they held naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman, which I believe is an annual event. This is nothing extraordinary. The trilateral meeting held in Beijing reflects that the three countries are indeed strengthening their relations and are moving forward in a cohesive way. And of course, there is an attempt to coordinate policies to counter U.S. policies that attempt to interfere in their domestic affairs and in the affairs of sovereign nations and coerce them to act a certain way. Iran, Russia, and China once again emphasized the importance of diplomacy in the multipolar world. Hopefully, the other side will take a note and actually understand what this meeting means. Thanks for watching. I hope that this quick update was interesting. Remember to show your support, like, subscribe, and share. Follow me on worldaffairsandcontext.com for more content, and I will see you back here soon. Take care.